Hey there, Patty Dominguez, and I want to thank you so much for checking out this episode number 40 of the Positioning to Profit podcast. Today, we're featuring Julie Tran, who is a leadership coach and founder of Leading AF. The AF stands for Asian Females, which I thought was super clever. And she talks about how she has created this movement of hers, why it's different, why it's so needed, and more about her differentiation, which I thought is super clever. She's also a proud foster mom and wife, and an all-around really fascinating individual. So you're going to get to connect with Julie, hear about what she's got cooking, and I hope you love this episode as much as I loved hosting it with Julie Tran. Hey there, I'm Patty Dominguez. You're about to discover what it means to position your brand and your business to stand out. This show explores the stories of small business owners just like you who are bringing their message out to the world and impacting their tribe. So if you want to take your business to a category of one status, then hang with me because this podcast shares everything you need to know about how to be more prolific with your brand so that you can have more profits. Julie Tran, welcome to the Positioning to Profit podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Patty.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny because I know we're going to have a really great conversation when the pre-conversation is always really fruitful. And I'm like, wait, let's hit the record button. You know what I mean?
So, I know, right? I'm like, it's already starting to get juicy. I love it.
I know already. So you all are in for a very cool surprise because what I like about Julie already is that she left her corporate gig. Not that there's anything wrong with corporate, but it takes immense amount of balls to do that. So tell me in your 3-minute story about your background prior to this new venture that you're doing now.
Yeah, sure. And then I'll tie it into why I left corporate and then creating my new venture. So my background is in corporate. I was a commercial real estate executive in the industry. And I'd been doing that for how long? Like 15 years or something. Thought I loved it, was really passionate about it. And then over time, it just started really grinding on me. Like I just didn't feel fulfilled, but I kept on putting it off and just surviving it, right? Because there was no impetus for me to make a change. And I know I had mentioned this earlier too, but something that was very pivotal for me was becoming a foster parent. So my husband and I struggled with IVF for years. And we got to the point where we're just we're done with the process. And then we started looking into adoption. And then that one thing led to another. And we decided to become foster parents. And when our 2 boys came into our lives, they've been with us for how many months now? 16 months now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we became brand new parents, literally overnight. We got a call and then overnight they were at our home. We had nothing prepared. But yeah, they came into our lives and it was such a gift for me in so many different levels. Because I was able to recognize that, wow, I'm so happy being here with them. And anytime I would think about what I was doing before, all these commitments that I had for work, it would actually drain the energy from my body as opposed to invigorating me like it felt when I was with my kids. And so, I just made a decision because I didn't want to feel that way anymore. And I say I make a decision, it's not it happened in a snap, right? It took a little while for me to train myself into thinking, oh, wait, I'm actually not my corporate job isn't my identity. Because that's what I was stuck on for a long time. It's if I wasn't doing this, what am I going to be doing? And then I had to get with, oh, actually, Julie, you are quite smart and capable. You can be doing anything you want.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I around that time, this was about summer of last year, I quit my job, and then I was looking for what inspires me. I created space for creation. This is something I talk about in my community a lot because a lot of times we get very burnt out and we have no space to even recenter ourselves and understand what makes us happy and what we want to do. So I created space for that, and Leading AF was born because so Leading AF is a community that develops driven Asian females into future leaders through coaching, live events, and sisterhood. And that came to me because, first of all, I feel just in my entire life experience, like, it's just so aligned with my life experience from, being Asian, of course, growing up with just very low self-esteem and never feeling like I fit in anywhere. And then working in corporate and never really like finding my voice. Like I thought I did, but didn't. It never really felt right. And I had the opportunity at my last corporate job to really step up to be a visible, powerful leader, but I didn't want to do it. It's like I was half in, half out. And so I knew that if I was dealing with this, so are so many people in my community. And so Leading AF started to serve our community, where there's so many Asian women who don't feel like, who don't have a voice, or there's just something missing, or they're burnt out and they haven't stepped into leadership in a powerful way and in a way where they feel freedom and ease, so they shy away from it. So yeah.
Okay. So Julie, what's really cool about what you're saying is that you really assessed that there was a need in the market in the Asian community. And I'm curious, when you said that, do you think it's a cultural thing, or do you think there's a lack of Asian women leaders and you're looking to fill that gap?
I think it's like a chicken or the egg situation. Mm-hmm. I think it's a cultural thing why a lot of women and Asian women don't feel authentic stepping into a leadership role at the executive level, or, at the CEO level, or like even just starting their own businesses. I think there's also like a mindset. So culturally, there's a mindset barrier with that. There's a lot of resources out there for personal development and leadership development. And I attend a ton of this stuff, so like, I'm very familiar with it. And what I notice is there are not a lot of Asian women or Asians in general participating in this. And so my theory is twofold. One, it's a cultural barrier, as in terms of, we pride ourselves in being able to be independent, right? And doing things on our own and figuring things out on our own. And something like help is very, it doesn't align with our cultural values. It sounds odd, but it just kind of doesn't. And so we're not participating because culturally, it just doesn't feel aligned to ask for help, right? It's almost like a sign of weakness, which, which is probably why, there's a lot of mental illness in the Asian community as well, where my community is just not even talking about it. So that's kind of a sidebar. And then the other thing is, perhaps they're also not participating in this because there's nobody talking to them yet.
Right. Because it's so interesting, because when I was introduced to you by our mutual friend Tara Romano, and I saw what you did, and then you talked about Asian women and leadership, and I was like, that's so interesting. And I've been now an entrepreneur since 2013, January of 2013. I'm like, I don't ever recall there being an Asian woman leading a cause like what you're talking about. So very specifically. So I'm like, wow, I think this is a blue ocean opportunity. So with that said, totally. Are you finding that people are connecting with the message that you have? And if so, what is the core message? Is it leadership? Is it self-love? Because I've been scoping you out a little bit. Like, what do you think is hitting the mark and is getting attention?
Yeah, well, I think that everybody I talk to has been like, this is needed. Thank God You're doing this. Like, that like it should have been done before, So it's really resonating with my community. And my message, when we talk about leadership, right, it's not isolated from the rest of your life. Everything is so interconnected, as you know, and as most of your audience knows. So my marketing is all about leadership, and my message, which I totally fully believe, and this is so much of like a big part of who I am, is being an authentic leader, being your own personal brand of leadership, not the way that society tells you to be, because I think that that's the miss as to why so many of us in our culture don't really take it to that next level, is because they feel like, and I say they, but I'm talking about myself and to myself, feel like it's not for them. It doesn't resonate with them because they're acting and they're being somebody that they're not. But what if we can be so authentic to who we are that we just organically embody being a leader? And that's the message that I want to spread, is that you don't have to be like what people say you should be. Just be who you are. Get back to who you are and live life on your terms, and you'll organically be a leader.
That's beautiful. And so what is it that you offer? Like, what is it? Coaching? What's your program?
Yeah, so I offer coaching. I offer leadership coaching, and within my community, right now it's a free private community where I provide coaching content on like a regular basis to get people. I mean, my main goal of that is to spread awareness about what leading AF is and the mission of it. Ultimately, we're breaking the bamboo ceiling. Have you heard of that term before?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're breaking the bamboo ceiling. It exists. It doesn't need to. And I really think that, so much of it, not entirely, there's a lot of structural things out there that needs to be addressed, but so much of it also has to do with our internal psychology, right? And so the approach I take is the internal psychology. And like, what is stopping you from taking that next step? What is it about, that next move that's scary? Or, even things like we address things that are very fundamental to our culture, which is people pleasing. Like within our culture, for example, I love so many things about it. And it's such a big part of who I am. And I'm so proud to be a Vietnamese American immigrant. I literally was born at a refugee camp, and my parents risked their lives. They almost died at sea getting us here. And so I'm so proud of my culture. And at the same time, I've gotten to the point where I'm recognizing that some of the things that I'm proud of, there's another side to it, a few of our cultural, quote unquote, stereotypes are working really hard, respecting your elders, and working really hard, respecting your elders, and working really hard, respecting your elders, and not questioning authority, right? So all those things work for us to an extent. That's given us a lot of achievement in life. We're considered the model minority because we work really hard and we don't really ruffle any feathers or rock the boat. We just kind of we just stay really focused. And the thing is, that works to an extent. It gives us a lot of achievement. The problem is it gets dangerous when we become people pleasers, because we don't question authority, because we're programmed to respect our elders, right? Well, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just not natural for us to question authority. And we also base our worth on how hard we work.
Right. It's so good because, typically when I'll talk to different coaches or different people that offer this type of guidance to other people, I'll say, okay, well, what is it that makes you different? And inherently what leading AF, and I'm assuming it stands for Asian females, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is so genius. Leading
Thank
AF.
you.
Because it's genius and memorable. And to me, it gives an indication of where your brand personality is, by saying AF, which is really clever.
Thank you.
When you look at that from a differentiation standpoint, everything you stand for is really, in my interpretation, based on what you're saying, is really rooted in honoring these cultural conditioning elements that really make you who you are at the core. But it's almost like it's time for a new iteration of that, so that it's really honoring the cultural side of yourself and the cultural traditions, but saying it's okay to step into your greatness. And inherently, I know, like, from what you're saying, it's like just honoring who you can be, who you really are at the root, right? And so it is possible to have both, but without sacrificing or compromising what you really want, if that makes any sense. To me, it's just like resonating so deeply that the differentiation is very, very clear. Which is a good thing.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Like I know that we can simultaneously celebrate our culture and acknowledge everything that it's done for us and our contribution to it, and vice versa. And at the same time, have the courage to recognize what's working for us and what's not.
Yeah.
You know, because the impact is, like, just look around. There's a huge leadership gap in the Asian community.
Yeah.
That's the impact. And if we continue to keep on doing things the way we've been doing and keeping our mental models and our possibilities limited, what is that message does that send to our brothers and sisters and our children? You know? So, yeah.
So curious for you, like, what have you tried on the marketing side of things that has not worked?
What have I tried on the marketing thing? Oh, this is funny. I love this question because you were talking about the name of Leading AF. And I couldn't even start my business until I had a name. And so I was playing with different names out there, and I wanted it to be an acronym. So Leading AF can also, the acronym for that is also LAUGH, which is like joy and fun, which is something that was really important to me. But initially it was Loud Asian Females. And everybody so when I spoke to my Asian friends and contacts, they were like very concerned, like, no, that's not appropriate, right? But when I would speak to my friends who are non-Asians, they're like, oh, that's cute.
Okay, we're about halfway through with this episode, but I wanted to make sure that you knew about my new Positioning to Profit quiz so that you can discover how to use the key pillars of positioning to give yourself the ultimate edge for your business. It's an assessment, personalized plan of action to overcome these roadblocks that are keeping you from even more profit. So head on over to positioningquiz.com. All right, let's continue with the show.
You know, but I realized that they're not my audience. I have to serve my audience and my community.
Exactly.
And so, so that didn't work, but something better was born out of it, which is Leading AF.
Yeah, for sure. It's so good. Because initially when I was introduced to you and I saw the name, I'm like, Leading AF. Okay, get it. But then I'm like, the whole Asian side of it, I'm like, oh, that's so clever. You know?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you got that because still some people to this day, which gets me a little bit like, oh, maybe it's not clear enough, but some people still they don't connect with like what the meaning of that right away. And so, when you have to explain to people what it is, there's like, you don't necessarily want to do that when you're marketing. So, but thank you for getting in here right away.
Yeah.
You're my people, Patty.
Well, here's an interesting question that I think I already know the answer, but I'd love to hear from you is like, what do you think is an untapped opportunity in your marketing, right? So because you're marketing specifically to Asian females, like where do you think your marketing is headed?
Because I'm marketing to Asian females. Yeah, right now, and I'm not sure if this answers your question, but right now it's my target is Asian females. And I'm the long game is to shift the mindset to going from mostly like, it is what it is to, oh wait, I can create my own possibilities and I have the power to do that. Right. Yep. And then the mindset of also investing in yourself.
Yes.
So get the coaching, or whether it's from me or somebody else, go to transformational events. I've attended a ton of them. I'm still participating in them now. Just build a team around you to support you in this. And what I see for Leading AF down the line is for me to host my own transformational 3-day events, because there's nothing like that out there right now that serves my community. directly. And I know that I can get through to them and resonate with them. And I've already done
I
that.
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I have a friend of mine. She is a leadership coach for women in Japan. So she works with the Japanese market for women executives. And her big thing was, yeah, like culturally, she said in Japan, people don't really recognize that they need this because there's no awareness. So part of her challenge has been building awareness of how this is going to make you a better professional, a better person, so it not only impacts you professionally, but personally. So for you, it sounds to me like there's that same element of almost education, letting them know like how, wow, this is such a critical piece to having a fuller life, if you will. And that's been so almost like a bridge, right? A bridge to get them to identify, like, if you have this, then you'll have more success and more fulfillment and all of that. And so that it's so interesting that you're saying the same thing. It's here in the US, like her market is in Japan, and it's solely Japan, if I'm understanding correctly what she does. But it sounds like it's really blue ocean for you in providing that level of awareness for people. It's not as saturated as the regular market, right? Where there's different entrepreneurs and there's leadership and mindset and this and that. Like, you literally have an untapped market, which is super exciting.
Yeah, it is really exciting. And then to that point, I don't want to be the only one. Like, I want to build up other women in my community so that they can go out and do the same thing, if not better.
Yeah.
You know? Because like you said, it's just this blue ocean out there right now. And there's such a big opportunity for us to empower one another. And the more we can come together to do that, the better, the stronger we are, and the stronger we will be in chopping down this dang bamboo ceiling that I keep talking about.
I love that. I love that. And it's really exciting to see. Okay. So some random questions for you. Person, place, or thing. What are 3 things that inspire you?
Person, place, or thing. 3 things that inspire me. Okay. So I get very inspired by space. Just like, I know, it's like, I'm not even a scientist. I get very inspired by, like, why are we here?
Yeah.
You know, like, what is our purpose here? And like, there must be a bigger plan, or I don't know. There just must be something bigger than us, like in what you see. And so I'm very inspired by, by what's out there. And to me, that's like this space and the sun and the moon and the galaxies, like all that stuff. Right. And I like to picture myself like bigger than just me in this body. So that's very inspiring for me. My sons, for sure. Because, I felt I don't know if I mentioned this. I think I might've mentioned this earlier in the show, but I had suffered from anxiety and depression for a long time. And I forgot, and I was just very serious. Like, I remember one morning I was getting ready for work, and I was looking in the mirror, and this is while I was still working at corporate. I was looking into my eyes, like really looking into my eyes that morning. And I was like, who are you? Like, I was just very sad and tired. And everything was just so serious and significant. But when the boys came into my life, it brought back like the feeling of what joy, like into your cells, like what that feels like.
Yeah. How old are your boys, by the way?
Right now, they're 6 and 2.5.
Yeah, that's why. Because kids that are under the age of 7 are more in theta brain state. Their brainwave state is more theta. So they're more creative, imaginative. That's why I remember when my son was that little, like, you could literally give him a piece of string and he'd fabricate these tremendous stories. And it's just so exploratory and creative, and they elevate that sense of joy, which is what I gathered from it. And I didn't really recognize that was the case when I had them being so little, because I was like you, I was all serious and corporate and like corporate burnout and the whole thing. And it wasn't until you really understand like how kids, by the very nature of the way that they work. And it's up until the age of 7. And then 7, they start to get conditioned in the 3D world around judgment, getting made fun of, and this and that. It's like, let me protect you in the bubble, to make you the strongest, best version of yourself up until the age of 7. And that's why probably like they brought that sense of joy to you, because my a client and friend of mine, she's a healer also, she talks about how money follows joy, money follows fun. And when you're all serious and all that stuff, it's like you're depleting, and energetically you feel it because of the way you feel, being like, the fact that you said, I looked into the mirror like, why am I so exhausted? It's like that you clearly were incongruent, right? Just there wasn't flow of any kind. It's so good to hear that your kids brought that sense of joy for you.
Yeah. And I love that you brought that perspective into it. And for me, their joy was just like it was just so contagious, right? It's like we talk about waves of vibration and everything. It was just so contagious, and they can just be happy just standing there doing nothing.
Right. It's so cool, isn't it?
Yeah. Or like I would take them, I hadn't been to Disneyland in ages, but I took them to Disneyland when I was back out in California a few months ago. And they were just like so happy. And it made me excited because they were so excited. And it was just like this like mutual creation,
Yeah, it's the best.
It's the best. So yeah, their joy from nothing, like they just generate joy out of nothing. That really inspires me. And what also really inspires me is being of service. Like it gives me the biggest high when I know that I made a difference in somebody's life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so if you weren't an entrepreneur, what would you be doing as a career, do you think?
If I wasn't an entrepreneur, what would I be doing? I would be a full-time foster mom. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. There's such a big need out there. And you know what? I'm going to add something else to that is I would be running a nonprofit to spread awareness about foster care, because when most people don't even think about foster care, and when they do, there's a like negative connotation to it. So I would be running a nonprofit to make it part of everyday conversation and shift the angle of which people think, shift the lens of what people think about foster care.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what's a surprising business trend that you never expected to see?
Great question. I don't know if I've ever thought about this before. Okay, what's a surprising business trend? I would say personal brand. I grew up in marketing was not something that I did commercial real estate, right? I was an investor, right? So I have some experience in marketing, but it never was like a big part of what I did. But now that I'm an entrepreneur and working on my brand, and also just like with the whole sort of sea change in influencers and digital marketing, the younger me was not present to the importance of personal brand and how that has taken off.
Yeah, it's so critical. And it's the reason why people will connect to you as opposed to somebody else, even though most people will say, well, my mousetrap is better. We talked a little bit about that on the pre-roll. It's like people don't do it for the accreditations or the certifications you have, but for the hope that they see that you provide for them, and for the KLT, know, like, and trust factor. That's totally really what that's about.
And then, and adding to that too, is they want to have fun with you.
Exactly.
Patty, when I read your website, I was like, oh, Patty's my girl. She's like referencing Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and she does ketogenic and she loves carbs.
I was going to say, and then the other one is like, which came up one time where they're like, so you don't like country music, huh? I'm like, nope. And I don't apologize for it. You know what I mean? Because I have something in my about page where so I said, if you like country music, we could still be friends or something. Cause like I talked about my iPad playlist.
Yeah. I love that. By the way, I said, oh my God, because I was like, wow, are we the same person? Because I also dislike country music.
Oh, big time. Big
Like
time.
I will listen. I have super eclectic taste in music. I listen to everything, but country doesn't almost never makes the cut.
Me neither. It's like there's no reason for it.
Exactly.
All right. All right. So as we're wrapping up, what positioning advice would you give someone who is looking to grow their business? And the reason I say this is because you have this beautifully crafted blue ocean positioning opportunity. What advice would you give?
Sure. What I would give is the advice I would give is really hone in on the problem that you're solving and for whom.
Yeah.
You know, and the message you want to send is before target audience, you experienced this and felt this way. I have a solution for you. After, you can feel this and have that problem solved. You know, so that can if you can position yourself to address that before and after, that solving that problem, then just first of all, you're going to feel really passionate about what you do because you're clear. And second of all, your audience is just going to come to you because you're so clear and you're so passionate and you're just going to be talking to them. So it just takes out a lot of like guesswork, which is where the world I was swimming in before until I got clear.
That's perfect. That's exactly it. Because at the end of the day, entrepreneurs, we provide solutions to people's problems, and that's how we add value in the world. So I couldn't agree with you more. Okay, Julie, how do people get in touch with you to find out more about Leading AF and what you have going?
Awesome. The best way to get a hold of me is through my Instagram handle, which is Lead with Julie Tran.
Lead with Julie Tran, and any of the other links that you're going to find in the show notes of the Positioning to Profit podcast. Julie, thank you so much for being on the show. I think we should definitely catch up with another show because I want to see the evolution of what you've created with Leading AF, because I absolutely believe it's something that is so needed, and it's just like primed for just complete domination, which is really exciting to see because I don't see that all too often where things are just like, oh my God, this is so clear that people do this. So it's really, really exciting time for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And it was such a pleasure jamming with you here. I had so much fun. Awesome. And definitely I would love to come back.
Thank you so much for checking out the Positioning to Profit podcast. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes. And also, it would mean the world to me if you would take a quick moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast player. It really helps to get the word out about the podcast and, of course, the featured guests. And lastly, please make sure to connect with me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm on all of them. And use hashtag positioning to profit so that I can search you out and connect that way too. All right. Thanks so much. See you next time.